Right. Of course, as we continue to take a look at some of the developments in Zambia with opposition parties up in arms over the suspension of vote counting and the announcement of election results nationwide. And of course, the mood on the ground is what we'd like to unpack and to get a sense of what are these latest developments. We're joined by Channel Africa's correspondent in Zambia, Arthur Davies Sikopo. A very good evening to you and welcome, Arthur.
Good evening and thanks for having me.
Perhaps let's get a sense of, what is happening on the ground as we learn of a lot of tension in some parts and, all eyes really focused on the vote counting process.
Indeed. So I think starting with just maybe yesterday when, everyone voted, we went through into the evenings when the vote counting started in various polling stations. We are told the last polling station closed at 02 a.m. This particular morning. And from that particular time, vote counting has been going on, and people have been obviously been anxious to hear, the results from that particular election. So, but the mood today has been okay in Lusaka, though later on, after the announcement of the suspension of the counting and, of course, the tallying and the announcements of results, there was some unrest in the capital, Lusaka, the central business district, where we saw some shops being closed, people running up and up around and all that, stones being thrown around. And later in the evening, we learned that 9 people, I think about 9 people, have been picked up and locked up by police to help out, of course, with investigations on what was really, what really transpired, in the central business district. Of course, around the country, we've seen, people very eager and. When the announcement was made, of the suspension of, the counting, tallying, and of course, announcement of the results.
Yes.
We saw statements coming from around, the country, from stakeholders such as the Law Association of Zambia, which is a legal a body for legal representatives in the country, issuing a statement urging the Electoral Commission of Zambia, to rescind its decision on that, because obviously it was against. They said, it was against, people's, wishes and all that. They could have maybe just suspended, in those areas where there was maybe some, some fracas or where ballot papers were stolen. So. But later in the afternoon, we saw that particular escalation of violence in Lusaka. But now we are told that everything is back to normal.
So as you say that that things are all back to normal, of course, there's still a lot of suspicious, concerns from opposition parties. Has the Electoral Commission responded to any of the claims that the opposition has made during this course?
So we have just, I think, a while ago, we have seen some interesting developments in the country. We hear that the opposition leader, the leading opposition leader, we can say so, of NRPUP, Brian Mundubile, has been picked up, and so we started hearing, about it somewhere around 19 hours. And but at the police station where we were hearing that he was taken to, there was nothing there, but he posted some few minutes ago on his Facebook page, and of course his running mate Makebi Zulu equally posted that Brian Mundubile has been picked up by Zambia military forces, and he was being questioned at the time of him posting that particular post on his Facebook page. And this, I think, is emanating from the video which circulated in the afternoon, which I think we also discussed about, where he was saying that they have information that they were leading in this particular election. So as we speak right now, he is obviously being questioned according to the Facebook page postings are made by his running mate, and of course on his page, and of course even people around him have equally confirmed. So there's still that particular a concern from from opposition leaders. And of course, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, earlier on, during their briefing, they urged citizens, they urged political party members, and of course leaders, not to take, the responsibility of the commission of announcing results. And so that was, I think, a warning to all of politicians, and of course, even just general the Zambian citizens, because Facebook has been flashed, awash with results coming from different angles of the country.
Yeah, and of course, as you talk about some of these concerns, this now raises the big concern around the political environment and electoral reforms, and whether or not, with the alleged arrests that you speak of, whether or not we're seeing a genuinely competitive contest on the ground, if there are arrests in between, as we take a look at the developments around the potential outcome.
Indeed, the atmosphere obviously speaks to even the general outcome of this particular election. So, and this, I think, is being caused by the anxiety that people are not hearing anything, obviously, from the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And of course, following that particular suspension, I think that obviously escalated, people's motives, obviously, to go probably on the streets or something like that. But obviously, Zambians have always been known to be peaceful people. But we don't know. Maybe they're just so anxious that they can't wait for the results to be released. But of course, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, during its 18 hours address, they said that they are going to start announcing at 22 hours this evening. So probably in the next 45 minutes, we might see the Electoral Commission of Zambia start announcing the results at the results center here in Lusaka. That is the presidential results. But of course, for the parliamentary and these other like mayor or council chairperson, and councillors, obviously, those are being done in our respective constituencies.
And as those results continue to trickle in, we know that President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking another term. Is this election shaping up as a referendum on his first term in office?
Indeed. From the voters that we managed to talk to, they were like, okay, we have seen what he has done. So others would say, okay, we want to give him another term so that we see how he can finish what he has started. We see that he has done, he has put some good programs for the country. He has done tremendous well for the country. So we want to give him, another mandate. But others are saying that, in this particular 5 years that he has done, he has tremendously failed the people of Zambia, and some of them are pointing to the issue to do with, the high cost of living in the country, where, people are, some people, and of course, Zambia has got a population of about 21 million people, and of course 61% of those are living in abject poverty. So when you talk about the lives that obviously those over 61% are living in this particular time, obviously it's quite tough for them, and so some of those are picking it up from there. And of course, due to the things like energy crisis that the country has had for like about 4 years of his tenure. So they are pointing at those as some of the failures, that they are benchmarking him against. And of course, saying that, he has failed us in this particular area, so maybe we try another person. So those are some of the views coming from the people on the ground. So obviously, it is something which is a test to him, obviously.
Absolutely, especially with the opposition challenging the government on issues like the economy and the cost of living. And of course, the influence, of course, could perhaps be the factor which determines the outcome. What are the key constituencies that could ultimately decide this election as we look at the bigger picture and as those results trickle in?
So mostly the key areas that will determine this particular election or this particular broadcast are those seats in Lusaka and on the Kowa Belt, and of course in Central Province. So these mostly are the deciding factors in an election in Zambia. for most presidents that have at least that we have at least seen for the last maybe 15, 20 years. So these are the key areas where key votes come from. But of course, in this particular election, we know that Hakainde Hichilema and his team, the United Party for National Development, UPND, they are very strong in the area where Hakainde Hichilema comes from, which is the Southern Province. And of course, he enjoys Western Province and of course Northwestern Province. Then for Brian Mundubile and of course his running mate Makebi Zulu, I think they might enjoy Eastern Province of Zambia, Northern Luapula and Muchinga, and then Lusaka, Central and Kuba Belt. It is going to be a battleground for them.
Yeah, and of course, very lastly, as we watch, we know that the final tally will be announced on Monday. And of course, as you said at the start of our conversation, that government really warning people against declaring themselves as the winners of the election. And as we watch these results this evening, I mean, what are some of the expectations as you assess the kind of mood and whether or not the suspension today, that very brief suspension, is going to be a hindering factor?
Well, others say maybe the suspension could be a hindering factor, but others will say that suspension obviously could not, be a hindering factor in this particular election. But obviously, Zambians obviously are obviously going to, wait for those particular results and see where they, where maybe, these particular leaders are leading and obviously maybe have trembled. And obviously, it is a matter of just like the Electoral Commission of Zambia said, they have obviously the mandate to, make these particular announcements. But obviously, all these political parties have been having their, parallel voter tabulation, which obviously they'll compare with the results that obviously will be announced by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So parallel voter tabulation is a system where, political parties will, tabulate and, will count what they have gotten and, what the opponents have also gotten, and then try to see who obviously the winner at the end of the day will be. And I think this is one issue that has obviously brought that particular concern on Brian Mundubile, because earlier on in the videos in the afternoon, he had said that, they had information that, they had garnered some good chunk. And
Yes.
I think about 80% of, the votes that were cast. So obviously Zambians have to wait and see. But we only hope that what will come out will not bring something that will be maybe, or that will bring maybe some unrest in the country.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Arthur Davies Sikopo, as we continue to keep an eye on the development in Zambia. In fact, as Arthur mentioned, some of the positivity coming from Hichilema. He wrote on social media shortly before the suspension of vote counting was announced that he had received encouraging results. So it's one that we continue to watch as these results trickle in Zambia's elections.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Shande. Tuambie ulianza lini safari yako ya muziki, tuanzie hapo hapo.
Mimi nimeanza safari yangu ya muziki ilikuwa ni mnamo mwaka wa 2019 chini hapa Uganda, Kampala.
Ulianzia